walk through each of the pieces. All right. So on my screen, I have got a customer open on the dashboard page. Now, before I go into the detail on the dashboards, I'm going to show you how to set up or switch on and enable the analytics tool. So under administration, there are two ways to enable the analytics tool. One is on the client themselves under the features. You can enable the dashboard page and then enable the analytics reports and choose the analytics reports you would like to enable. Or you can do this at your vendor level by doing it on the client group and creating or enabling the dashboards and the reporting in the client group itself. Now you can see this client group it's got the dashboard page enabled, but the reporting page disabled. It's a simple case of enabling the reporting page, enabling the analytics reports, and enabling the analytics reports that you would like to have pulled down to that client group. So I'm just switching a few on, and those then would flow down to that client group. So you control who gets the dashboards. So going back to this particular screen, we'll start with, we will be building a dashboard from scratch, and we'll show you in detail each part and how to use it. So firstly, when I go to a dashboard, you can see we are trying to use wizards quite more frequently than we used to in the past. So a customer only has to click the open the dashboard and immediately are faced with this. Okay, and this is what you will see as well. And to create a dashboard, it's simply a case of clicking the blank, giving the dashboard a name, giving it a description. As I was saying earlier, it is important to give the name to the dashboard. It should be quite clear to your customers or yourselves what it means. And then the description should cover what that dashboard contains. So if it's a fleet dashboard, or whether it's individual asset dashboard, or whether you're going to merge the two, give the name and the description quite clear descriptors. Once you create the dashboard, it'll tell you that you need to put widgets or share widgets to it by opening the reports. And here, what happens is we're now in the analytics section, and this is where we start the magic, so to speak. So let's go into a report and start describing some of this to you. So the first thing is, give your report a unique name. That allows you to go back to it at any point in time and play around with the original report. So that is your description, and it'll be in your queue. The output format, you're not too worried about, because the output format ultimately will be the widget. The most important to consider is the row and the group. And this becomes the important part. Depending how you would like to split your data. So if you would like to show individual assets on the dashboard widget, then it's worth having the asset in the option of a row or a column. So I can choose either, but I obviously have to have a different row if I put the asset there. So if we wanted to see individual asset data by time, this will be available to me on the x-axis, so I can see the time or the asset. you can see I can also choose to split the data or filter the data by cost center. Time still is a constant, as I described earlier. In other words, I will pin the widget to the dashboard for the last 7 days or yesterday. So I will still have a time frame for the data. But if I were to run it across a cost center, I can filter down to the cost center level, each asset in the cost center level, or I can choose to roll the data up by time. So show the last 7 days worth of data per each cost center. So choose the row and the column simply by changing those inputs. The utilization mode, sort type, and direction are not too important because all of that will be editable on the output. You can choose which assets to run. And here, the nice thing is you can choose to run this according to groups. Okay, so we could choose various groups, or we can choose cost centers. So you can choose which vehicles to run the report on and filter your data even more. We choose a date range, and then under the columns, these are the data fields that will appear on the report. You can choose to remove them if you don't think you'll be using them. I like to keep them all in because I can filter them out at the end. So I'm going to run that report, come back to this report. While that's running, I'm going to show you a different report. So here, for example, is an event report. And my report's finished. Here is the event report. Now, what I'd like to do on the event report is I would like to show which vehicle is generating which events. So there, I'm going to leave my row by asset, and I'm going to choose the event in the column. Now I can drill down onto the events. So I'm going to run any vehicle, and I'm going to choose a long time frame. And now I'm going to choose specific events. I'm going to choose the harsh braking, harsh acceleration, and harsh corner. So when I finish this report, I can then see which asset is generating which events. I can still choose my time frame. So let's run that report. And just to go back and show you all of the reports, the rows generally have the asset and time. Some of them have another filter, but the column is generally where you can adjust your filter. So for example, if I wanted to see what alerts are triggering on what vehicle over a time frame, I would choose the alert in the column and the asset in the group. If I want to see the fleet data as a whole, I can still do that because I can roll up my assets, and I'll show you that, or I can choose just the time frame. Now, my preference is to choose the asset and then the filter, and all of the reports have got the same sort of thing. I like that because I can still roll my assets up into the fleet versus individual. So now we've run 2 reports. Let's go and have a look at the asset utilization. All right, so now the report is finished. This is the output. And remember that the output that you're seeing is based on all of these measures or columns that were set in the beginning. Okay, so the important thing is all of these fields represent these fields here. So it looks a little bit busy. So what I would like to do is I would like to see the distance my fleet has driven per day. So I'm going to remove all of the fields I don't need. And now I should be left with just the distance. Now, we ran this report for 30 days. So this is the total distance that the vehicles have driven over 30 days. If I hold my mouse over it, it confirms that. Now there are a few pointers here. Notice on the x-axis it says vehicle. That corresponds to the asset. So it's the type of vehicle. So if I change that to name, it will split the data into the different vehicles. Okay, my other report is finished. Right, so all I did was changed one field and now I have the data in a different format. But I wanted to do this as an aggregate. I want to see the fleet by day. I'll come back to this though. So there's my vehicle type. I'm going to change my time level. Notice my time is 2020, which is the year, and I'm going to change it to day. Now notice what I said earlier. The x-axis is the row. To get the time on the x-axis, all I do is flip the data. Now I have the data. I've rolled up the vehicles and the fleet per day. So to recap, when you get your data, the row appears on the x-axis. I can filter my data on my row and my column to get it to the fields I would like. And if I would like to put my column on the x-axis, I flip the data. Now I've got the data in the format I'd like, but I'm quite particular. So I would like to change the color of my graph. So going under the series section, you can see whatever data we put in the graph will appear under the list. And I can go in here and change these fields. So for example, I could make it a line graph. I can leave it a bar graph. I can remove it if I want. I can add the average distance per day, and I'm able to change the color. So I'll make it something a little less garish. So it's nice and brown and it sticks out quite nicely. And just to show you what each one of these tools do, you can filter out a day if you would like. You can filter out a vehicle. So if we remove a vehicle, it'll adjust the average as well. Just remember, we've done this by fleet. So any of these vehicles being removed just removes it from the fleet. You can also sort the data, but because we've done this by date, it cannot be sorted. But I'll come back to how we can sort that and show you that. And lastly, if we had two fields, we could stack the data. We can add data labels. And for those of you who would like to change the axes, you can change the axes to a lower value, a higher value. And we can also position where the legend lives. So I've made a very simple widget in a short amount of time. All I need to do now is share it. When I put my mouse over the graph, the share option appears. I click the button. I choose the dashboard or start typing it. There it is. Now notice the default is 7 days. I can change that to 30. And I can give it a name. So I'm going to call it fleet distance per day. And again, a description. Nice, obvious description, what the data is or what the time frame is or anything else that you think is useful. Once I'm satisfied, I share it to the dashboard, which I now get the option to view it or close. If I don't view it, I can go back to my report and edit it. But let's view it on the dashboard, and there it is. Now I can resize it to make it look nice and big, depending on the screen that you're working on. Okay, now let's say for interest's sake, I shared this widget, but in fact, I've changed my mind. I only want the last 7 days of data, and I want to change the color again. So remember on the tools I showed you, there is a tool there, the option, and these are the widget settings. And all of the tools we saw in the report now become available. So notice asset time level, last 30 days. So I can change that to the last 7 days. There we go. And I'm going to change my color. Change my mind. I'd like a nice blue. And I would like the data label. Notice I have adjusted my widget just by playing around with the options. Now, the important thing to note as well, the widget is complete. If I navigate back to reporting, I have not adjusted this report. This report is independent from the widget. So I can now go into this particular one. Let's say I add in the active idling percentage per day. And I can play around with this report independently of that other widget and change everything. I'm going to add in active idling as a percentage. I'm going to show you here. Let's move active idling onto the right-hand side so that it pulls it up nicely, because active idling is a percentage. I'm going to change that into a line graph. And now I'm comparing the distance per day for my fleet against the active idling of my vehicles. And notice that I can now share this widget to my dashboard. Again, giving it a good name and a good description. And I can share that and view it on the dashboard. So now I've got two widgets, different look and feel. And you can, as I said, you can edit this widget directly from here. Now I'm going to go back to that same report, and I'm going to show you how we can now turn the data into the individual assets rather. So I'm going to roll the data up, and I'm going to take out active idling just to get a perspective. So now I've just got the distance driven in 2020 for the last 30 days. I'm going to unflip the data. So now it will bring me back my x-axis to the asset level. And now I change that to the name of the asset. And now I've got the name of the asset across the x-axis. That's my fleet composed of those vehicles. And my time level is rolled up to 30 days. Now, some assets have made no trips in this time, and some have made quite long trips. And you can see that the average also remains because I chose it under the series. So we can do the same. I can go into change my series and change the color and add or remove the average. Maybe the average is a little skewed. So in this case, I might want to remove some of these vehicles. And what will happen is they will be removed from my graph. I may have clicked too quickly, of course, to break it now. Murphy's Law. So I should probably do those one at a time, but you can remove them from this graph, okay? The important thing now is with this fleet, I can order the data. So I would like to see which of my vehicles is being used the least and which one is being used the most. So I'm going to go and change my sort order from alphabetic to numeric. So now I've got the ascending from bottom to top, or descending from top to bottom. Okay, and you can see now immediately that we've ordered the data by the most utilized vehicle. And if you have a customer or customers with large fleets, maybe they only want to see the top 5 vehicles that they have, or most utilized vehicles. You can limit the number of assets you show on the graph. So now I'm just showing the top 5 utilized vehicles. If I go to ascending, it'll show me the 5 least utilized vehicles. So simply put, you can now order and you can sort the data, and you can then save this widget again using the same report to my dashboard. And I'm going to give it again a nice description. And let's change that to 30 days. It changes the data and share. Okay, I'm just going to show you, we can adjust this data. So the important thing here is I can again go in here to my widget. My customer, maybe I want the top 10 vehicles. I can go in and change that under the sort option to the top 10 vehicles. It'll then adjust it accordingly. Now, I'm on a large screen, which is why I'm using this, but you can adjust the fields or the size of the widgets as you prefer. So you can see we've run one report. We've got multiple fields of data. So I've chosen just these two distance and these two with different parameters. You can have more than one field on a graph. You can have multiple. I'm going to show you in the next one how to use, for example, the event data. So let's park that one and go back to my reporting and go to the event analytics. So now we've chosen the parameters. We've got the measures that have popped up are the events and the alerts. I'm only interested in the event count. And again, across the x-axis, my row or vehicle or asset level is appearing. I have now noticed my column, instead of saying time, says event level, because we chose to run asset versus events. So now I've got the event count, and if I chose, I can go right down to the event type. Now what will happen is it will split them out, and there they are: harsh acceleration, harsh cornering, and harsh braking. But as I said before, the x-axis is the vehicle. If I want to see the events across the base or the x-axis, I flip the data. Now I've got the total count of each of those events. It doesn't tell me which vehicle is triggering them at this point. It's just splitting them out. So if I wanted to see which vehicles are generating which events, I can split it that way. And notice I'm still got the x-axis as the event type. So I flip it back, and now it'll tell me which vehicles are triggering which events. So just by flipping the data, just by adjusting the row and the column, you can generate multiple reports. Now this is a bit busy because I can't really see these values too nicely. So what you can do under the chart section is you can stack the data. So now you can immediately see you've got vehicles generating a lot of events and vehicles generating minimal events. So we could do the same as before and sort the data descending wise, okay? And we can change the color. Let's go to red. And we're able to pull this data into the format we'd like it. And maybe because of the values, I'm going to add the data labels. So we've got two vehicles generating a lot of events and others not generating too many, literally one each. One thing I didn't mention is if you would like to remove a field from your widget, either here or on the dashboard, and let's say the harsh braking is skewing my data, I can actually click here and it will remove that from my graph just so I can get a comparison. If anything is looking busy, I'm able to just have a quick look. So what we can do here is, again, we'll share this to the dashboard. giving it a name and a description. That's not how you spell that. And choose my data format. And then share. I'm going to view it on the dashboard. That's great. Now there are other formats of the data available to you. So I'm going to just show you, for example, let's say I wanted to see which or the number of triggered events in my fleet. So now I've got these number of trigger events in my fleet over the last 30 days. When you share this data, for example, you can also use the pie graph. And you can see immediately you've got your number of events occurring for my fleet in the last 7 days and also the last 30 days. So again, you can play with the asset or the row and the column to give you the output you require. And we then share that to the dashboard in a pie format. Now, what's nice about the pie is it's got its own set of indicators and formats that you can use, or editing tools. You can remove the fill to make it a donut. You can add the data labels if you would like, and you can change the colors. Again, you can remove the legend if you would like, or change the way the legend appears. So the pie and the stat are separate entities. One other feature I would like to just highlight, which is quite useful, is if we were editing this report and let's say we go in here and we remove the limit. So now I've got the full fleet of vehicles with my distance driven per 30 days. And I wanted this data in the format in the table, which is showing me the data. I can pull a CSV format. So you're able to pull the data out. If I then go and add in active idling, for example, I can then pull the CSV format. It will add the active idling in. So every time you edit the data here and add in various fields or change the dates or adjust the time level or the asset, you can pull the CSV file as well. After every edit, the CSV file updates accordingly. So that's quite a useful feature. Now, so we've run some reports, we've created some widgets. Now we go to our dashboard. And the dashboard is finished according to what I think. And so we've got some data here and it looks nice and neat. And now I want to create a template. All I do is go to the top right-hand corner. I click the Save button. Again, give it a very specific name. So this is the fleet dashboard number 1, or fleet dashboard, or individual assets. Give it a description. Again, your customers will see this description. So what is the dashboard? Why is it there? What will they see on it? You can make it public, and you can save it to the different levels. Once you save it, you will get a message to say that it is successfully saved to the vendor. You can, and I'll show you how the templates work now and how you can open them. So just to show you some of the tools before we move away from the screen is if we go here, that is the share button to another dashboard, the delete or remove, the report. So if you have had your dashboard running for the last 3 weeks, you can view the report and it'll be up to date, and you can edit it and you can adjust it. You can share it back if you'd like to edit it, and you can pull the data out as CSV format. So if in a week's time you don't want to go back and find where the report is, you just click on the widget, you download the CSV format, and everything is there. You can adjust the data again, adding in the fields you would like to, and then pull the CSV file. So those are the tools and available to you. So what I'm going to do now is change the client to another client. Now, imagine I am, in fact, I'm actually going to change it to a different client. So your end user customer logs in and you've given them the analytics tool, but they are not sure how to use it. And you've built a lovely template. The customer will log in, go to the dashboard, click the dashboard. They will see exactly what I saw at the beginning. And now, instead of trying to create a dashboard from blank, they click from template. And then they choose the template. This is why the name and the description are important. So I built a template previously, and this is the one we've built today. And what will happen is, as you see, the template will give the user sample data. So it tells the user that these are the dates, there's my assets, those are my particular events that have triggered, those are the assets. So it tells me each of the graphs has got a different way of displaying the data. It's sample data just to give them an idea of what their dashboard will look like. And once they click Open Template, they leave it. The data will run in the reporting section, and when it's finished, their dashboard automatically populates with the data. So they leave this and they go and they maneuver around on the platform and they do whatever else they would like to do. I'm going to jump across to another client to show you. So I've opened this template previously. Okay, this template was created in that client we were in earlier, development account. It is this dashboard number 9, okay, showing us the data. This is all the data is by date. And once I opened it, the reports populated and the widgets then automatically populated afterwards. Now this is a template. And the difference between a template and a normal widget is a template cannot be edited by the user. So when the user clicks on the little button to open the settings, they will be told, you can't edit this template. It is yours, not the user's. So if they would like to edit it, they can clone the dashboard and they can build it and effectively create their own dashboard from your template that they can go and edit. But if your users are happy with the data, there's no reason to go and do anything other than look at this dashboard daily. As I said to you earlier, the dashboards will, or the widgets, update every day based on the fields you have chosen and the format you've chosen. So tomorrow, the 18th of June, will appear on the dashboard. Because it is 30 days, the 19th of May will drop off and the 18th will be added. If we then go back to our client, just to show you, this data is probably still collecting, but the same principle applies. Notice the template is not editable. So the customer has to go in and clone the dashboard from a template if they would like to. So very quick and easy to use. And I'm just going, sorry, back to the reporting just to highlight a few things. So when you run the report, you choose the data fields you would like to add in the report, knowing that the row is your x-axis. You can make your column your x-axis. So you can choose which data set you would like for your customer. Run the report. You can edit it multiple times, giving you multiple sets of data ultimately. Don't be afraid to run multiple reports. If they don't meet your requirements, you can run them time and time again. That is why naming them is useful, to say, okay, this is an alert report filtered by alert, or an event report filtered by event report filtered by time. This is why in the beginning, it's good to give your reports a name. So when you go to your queue, you can see I ran multiple reports today, but they've all got the same name. So now each one of them, I would have to go in to see, well, what were the fields that I chose? So when you run the report, make sure that you give it a good title, choose your rows and your columns, knowing that you can then filter your data by those. And you can drill in and out based on what you've chosen. The widgets can be built from the report. And as I said, you can build multiple widgets from one report. And you can also then edit the widget on the dashboard to make it nice and neat. You can also then save that as a template for your customers, quick and easy, to give them access to your look and feel, but with their data. Okay, so I've covered off most of the topics I wanted to cover. There is one other feature I would like to show you. So you are monitoring your customers, for example. Notice in dashboard 11, we have got the data for the client development account. So now if you would like to monitor a client of yours, let's say you have a client who is generating a lot of panic events, or have got issues, lots of impact events, or you're concerned about a device problem, or maybe there's a utilization issue, or you would just like to keep an eye on the customer. Log into that customer. So I'm going to go into example. I would like to know what the utilization is in example. This is another customer of ours. I'm going to run this report, but now I'm going to name it. Example utilization, and I'm going to run it. Now I'm going to go back to my development account, and I'm going to go into the reporting section to queued. And there is my report. Because I am a user, that I've got access to all these customers. My reports that I run in the various clients will appear under my queue. When this report finishes, I'm able to pin this widget or output to my dashboard in my client. So what I'm saying here is you can build a dashboard in your own client, in your demo account or another account, and you're able to then take reports from your customers and pin them to your dashboard, so that when you log in on a daily basis, you can go and have a look at what is happening in your customers you would like to keep an eye on. So Murphy's Law is that the report is not running. Okay, so you're going to have to believe me that I ran this report earlier, and this data is coming from the client example. So you can see there the assets are the Suzuki Swift and the Toyota. And if we go into the development account report, you will notice these assets. So this report is from example. So now, as I said, we can edit this widget. completely. We can choose the format of the data we would like, and we can then pin this data to our dashboard 11 in the development to client. And that way, as I say, this dashboard of yours can become a tool to monitor multiple customers. That is a dashboard you wouldn't share necessarily as a template, but you could build your own dashboard to monitor your customers. You can do alerts, you can do data like distance, idling, etc. So you can keep an eye on your clients because you have the ability to run reports in multiple customers or clients and then pull those that data out onto your dashboard. I hope that makes sense. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope it's been a quick 50 minutes. I'm hoping it's been a great use to